Alright, I'm very late. Give me just 2 seconds. Sorry, guys. Ah. Ugh. Okay. My bad. Late as always. I just keep up, appearances. So the way I always am. Might as well keep it that way. Oh, what's that? I don't know. Still lighting a little bit. You guys can actually see me. And maybe this one too. Yeah, we definitely got enough light now. Cool. What is up? Yeah, much better. Now you can just see my ugly face better. Um, what's going on? How's everybody been? How's the week going for everybody? And we get rain today. We got it yesterday really bad. We've had it for like past couple days. So on my balcony. Awesome. Right on, ground pounder. Yeah, I haven't had any time to catch up on anybody's videos. I've been seeing a lot of yours coming out. I gotta get some time and just freaking sit down and watch videos. Climber Clint, what's up, bud? BTS, right on. That's my dude. Not in my area, Saturday. Yeah, we had it up quite a bit. It just kind of off and on. Like if you tried to go outside to do something, it would start raining and ruin it. So kind of sucked. And then actually we had a little bit today, enough that when I tried to go do something, it stopped me. You know how it is. So. Christopher, oh my friend. No, no need to apologize, Chris. Thank you. I do tree work when I can. Listen so much, but well, I mean, you got to take what you can get, Chris. I mean, it's definitely not a. It's a hard one to kind of. If you were having to just go off of it, it's a really, 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 really rough one. There's very few companies that stay busy enough, and they don't have struggle. So like anybody who really does this, the struggle is always kind of lingering and is always, in the background waiting, for its time. So that's my experience, but others may have it a bit better. Turbo got some rain. No editing. Short ones. Right on. Yeah, I'll have to catch up on. I seen some about the. Were you trying to clear out a view for your sunset or something? That's the ones I had seen kind of popping up on my feed. We got a mess with the rain. Damn, Dan, what's up? Dan got rain. Oh, right on, Chris. Thank you. That won't let me go. It won't let you climb? Oh no, John. Actually, you're you probably showed up when I showed up. We were both late. Me and John were hanging out. That's why we're late. Because I don't really have an excuse. I just stopped looking at the clock for a second and then realized, ooh, yeah, I better hurry up. What's my job trying to give them a sunset? Oh, that's cool. That's really cool. I have one that I was wanting to, I don't know how many years ago it was, but I have one very similar that's like, we have this really richy, um, private gated community that's like right outside of the city limits. Or it may actually technically be in city limits, but I think it's right outside. It's like up on a mountainside, and it's got like the big, huge, wrought iron gates where you come to the front, and all the statues and all that. Really, really fancy area. But I just ran into an older guy, and he lives at the very top, and he like goes and hunts grizzly bears in Russia and stuff, and like he just wants what he wants, and I respect it. He wanted to be able to see a view from where he was at, and he's like in a wooded area. So we picked the best area and said, I can make you a view through there. The only issue, and a lot of tree guys won't, maybe probably don't know this, but lifting the canopy on a tree to get view underneath can sometimes be a bad thing for a tree. Um, the problem with that is like anything you do to a tree has a different, causes a reaction. So when you lift the canopy on a tree, it to a certain extent is okay. A lot of trees prefer to have a prominent trunk where it doesn't have any, limbs growing off of it for quite a ways where it gets a limb or its first fork or union. But when you eliminate all that bottom growth and you raise a tree too high, it technically tells the tree to grow taller. So then the tops will break out. It'll actually grow taller than it like overrides the system that the tree has. Like the tree knows it should only grow so high. But when you lift these limbs up here, the tree has a certain amount of canopy that it feels at that age that it should possess. So if, if let's say the canopy starts here at my tattoos and it went all the way up here and you lifted it to here, well, it's going to tell the tree to grow at least that much more, if not more. So I see that happen a lot, and that's not like a real quick thing that happens to a tree. It's something that takes time for that to show up, but I see a lot where they'll top trees and then they'll come back and lift the canopies really super high, and then it'll end up blowing all the tops out. So just FYI, I mean, most guys may already know that, maybe you don't. I don't know. Wood chunk cider. Huh. I'm not a cider. I'm just not, I don't drink. I drink coffee. That's just me in the morning. And then energy drinks. So I probably have a very unhealthy beverage lineup. So that's just me though. Let me kind of catch up on comments, and then we'll kind of maybe we'll discuss the video. I'm sure most of you, if you enjoy the channel enough to show up for the live feed, you probably saw the video. So only 2/3 shoot sprouts every damn where. Yeah, yeah, and a lot of times you'll see that too. Where you take those off, the tree wants to have growth there, so it's the same thing like when you cut a limb and you have this big sprawled out limb. It's out there and here's the limb. And you go, you take all them off and you take it off at the wrist. So now you just have this pole sitting there. The tree instantly says, I should have growth here. So it says, it throws a bunch of suckers out. So now down on this stump where it had good unions, there's this many here, and it's just trying to cover its whole area. The tree at one point will have to decide, because now there's too many limbs on one section, the tree will eventually have to decide which ones will go. So the tree will actually kill off certain limbs because they become mature to the point that it can't take care of all of them. So it selectively kind of kills off one or two, or they get to crisscrossing and kill themselves, or rubbing, or where the new growth's at, the grain where it matches where it grows and the union starts. It's really weak. The grain patterns are so different. You have very, very, very immature meeting up with fairly mature. So it's a weak point. That sucker growth thing, I'll discuss why that was a sign for me on that video. Why I knew that there was something wrong, solely because of that sucker growth. Let me just catch up on comments and I'll discuss it. It'll start having heart problems. Yeah, hope I don't want no heart problems. Topping a tree in my area is a no-no. It should be a no-no everywhere, but there is times for it and situations where it's okay. I mean, the thing with topping a tree and pruning a tree is it would be okay if you was to have a tree climber back yearly to inspect, take out dead wood, and eliminate unnecessary growth, things that are crisscrossing, rubbing. If you was to bring a guy out yearly to do that, you don't end up with the tree killing a section off, and it sits there for so long. When it falls out, it's got a hole where it was at. Now it holds water. The whole section ends up being. That's what ends up happening. Or a lot of guys will top a tree. They top it, and they actually make the cuts flat, which is the silliest thing because now rainwater sets on top of it, ice sets on it, every kind of moisture sets on it. It starts to rot it and kills it off. But if you take a tree and you top it, but you leave some sucker growth, a lot of times, depending on the tree, it will come back. But the thing that's really wild is when you see them people that do the full coat rack, and it's nothing but stobs, and the tree never comes back, it completely dies, and it loses all of its bark. And you wonder, like, why did it lose all of its bark? Well, the sun literally gave it sunburn to the point that it burnt the bark off the tree. And it's called sun scald. So a tree has to have some cover. The trunk doesn't want all that direct sunlight. It can't do its job with all that. It's just bad for it. Swirly John, what's going on, brother? I think about pulling quite a few lower limbs out of an oak tree by my house. Hey, it's not like, that's okay though. That's why you can't take a tree. I was being very dramatic with that diagram of using my hand. It's lifting that much is not going to cause craziness. But I see where you have an 80-foot tree and it almost had suckers all the way, branches growing off damn near to the ground, maybe 8 foot off the ground, and then they lift it 30 foot up in the air. Most trees are okay with. They'll get a little more growth. They'll grow a little taller. It's not a bad thing. But when you start lifting ignorant amounts, that's where it gets bad. So I was gonna say something. I damn near forgot because my dog hears me talking. He thinks there's somebody outside, so he's barking. So ridiculous. But John, you're okay to trim some limbs. It's not that big of a deal. But with some trees it can be. So that's just a heads up. I'm sure a lot of people know. Oak wilt is a real thing. I don't turn oaks until November here. Oh my God, November? Wow. Yeah, I don't know about all the way to November. I guess it depends on your place. As long as there is discoloration in leaves and fall is starting to happen, the discoloration in leaves wouldn't happen until the sap actually goes completely down and has been down for a number of times. Then you get the change in leaf, where the leaves die off. So if as long as the sap's down, oak wilt, isn't as big of a. I mean, actually, there's no real like set standards or like list of things that like with oak wilt. It's a really tricky one. I don't know how it could be. Well, it does with the sap being up, the living aspect of the tree. It's doing so much during the sprouting year, time of the year, the seasons, whether spring and summer. Maybe it's subjectable to that so much then, but it shouldn't change so much. It shouldn't be able. Just weird. Trees are so tricky, but he's very right. Oak wilt can happen, and I would probably wait until you are absolutely for sure if it's especially if it's a major tree for you to do that. Another thing with oaks is they get cankered, and you'll see like when you take a limb off, it gets a black ooze like a stain off of cuts, and that can be canker, which could be caused by just trimming them at the wrong time of year. I'm sure maybe that canker is probably what is called probably oak wilt now. I don't really know. Um, that's probably part of oak wilt. I don't know a whole lot about oak wilt. I just know that it is a major thing that can happen. And but I definitely don't know the details. I know that oaks are probably the most temperamental out of all of them, and I kind of have a lot of rules before I touch one. So I see limbs die and a break because of each. 100%, Chris. Certain trees take time. Yeah, they do. Yeah, yeah, John. They definitely do. Like, I mean, you have your sweet gum take to it really good. Most softwood trees, hardwood trees are not good for topping. Like, you can't do that. I have seen. Um, I will show you guys maybe eventually. But down south where I go to work for my, help my cousins sometimes, I had seen oak trees that were like 7 foot in diameter that were stubbed off at about 12 foot. And they came back and are perfect round trees. The cuts were made flat. And that tree still came back and it depends on the tree. You're playing a gamble game when you top a tree. There is no guarantee with it. I don't care. But then you get that oak that should have never came back, but it had been damaged in an ice storm or tornado or something, and they wanted to have one last chance to save that tree. So much was broke, they said, but it grew back. So it's a beautiful big tree now. I wouldn't trust the unions and the branches, but, Guess I was going to wait till middle of fall. Yeah, there you go. Right on. I think you're definitely safe if you do that. And I guess November, the more I think about it, isn't really that. That's not that far off. November. That's like September and October. So, yeah. I mean, I guess ground powder. You're probably right. I mean, but you're probably being smart about it and erring on the side of caution, which is never a bad thing. Sorry, you guys are good at typing and I'm bad at reading. So I won't top them. Call someone else. I won't trim oaks neither. We stay pretty busy with removals. Right on. That's awesome. Yeah, everybody's about to hit their. This is kind of your removal season that you're going through right now because pruning is not such a great idea right now. So you do a lot of removals, and then you do removals all year, but pruning's only done at certain times. So that's awesome that you can stay busy with removals though, because those are the best ground powder. They are. I wish that would be so sweet. Maintenance is the key. That's why it's no, because no one does it. Right on. That's cool. I mean, that's the bad part around 90% of places because that's going to be done. And it's like when you drive by and you see that someone has butchered a tree and they did it the wrong time to give it a chance. Like what they did was wrong, but they could have done it at a better time to give the tree a chance. They could have made the cuts properly to give the tree a little more chance. Or there's a list of things, and like sometimes you think, damn, should I have just done that? And like because their tree would have had a better chance if I would have done it instead of me being like, nope, nope, you're topping, I'm not doing it. So I get why some people do it. I get why I get why if I'm being honest, I get why everybody does it because then if you're the tree, except for those tree guys that say you should top your tree, I don't think that should ever be a suggestion. But I don't blame a person for topping a tree when the homeowner is making that decision. That's what they want. They want a smaller tree. And that person doesn't know how to do a crown reduction properly, or, you know. So I get why people do it because, it's their tree. They can do whatever they want with it. But then you can be the guy to educate them a bit and maybe let them know, like, I know you've seen someone top a Bradford pear, and it came back and it looked pretty, and it was all full, and it was just a round ball afterwards, and you think you can now do that with your oak tree, but it doesn't work that way. So definitely, some trees lend themselves to it. Some trees you should never do it. But like I just said, I've seen those trees that you should never do it to come back and look beautiful. So it's messed up. It's really messed up. I like I like don't even like admitting that because it shouldn't have came back, but it did. So there's a couple of honey locusts up the road that we were taking down to the trunks, and about 6 months ago, look back and isn't it wild? It's so crazy, and my area is so incredibly humid, and like the moisture, is always very high. You know, we get decent amount of rain. You know, really hot and muggy. We get a lot of precipitation. So I feel like in Missouri, you get away with it like a lot more because there are them times where I drive by and I'm like, you killed your tree, stupid. And then I come back the next year and it's like nice and full, and I'm like, so why'd that thing come back? It shouldn't have came back. But the trees have adapted to the hillbillies here in Missouri. I feel like so like our trees are adapting to our redneckness and like allowing themselves to grow back because they grow back at the height of about 18 foot and above because you can get in your tractor bucket and lift yourself up or take your ladder and cut from about 18 foot. So the trees have now adapted, and we have hillbilly strong trees that just rejuvenate limbs like a worm. I don't know. And then we had oaks in Florida. Don't even know Yeah, ground pounder. Yeah, live oaks. I had a guy call them willow oaks the other day. He says he has willow oaks at his house. I don't know if he means. Who knows? I'm sure it's like a swamp oak, or because I've seen some here in Missouri that I don't know what we call ours. Maybe they're called. Maybe it's a shrub oak. I just don't run into them very often. It's an oak tree. I can tell by the bark. It's obvious. But then you get like a willow looking leaf. It's a little line, like a little long cylinder looking leaf. And yeah, if you watch Driver Ahorn, or Ahern, whatever, I guarantee you every YouTuber pronounces every other YouTuber's name wrong. But like a Hanuki guy that does the other trees, but he does a lot of live oaks, and the situation where they're at, like you have to have a permit for every single tree that you take down because the live oaks are actually extinct. and protected. So it's a long permit process, and I had just seen where like some company down there went to take down a live oak. They showed up at the house. They took the tree down. They ground the stump out, and then found out they were at the wrong house. And this is a big, beautiful tree. So um, I appreciate the thumbs up, whoever just hit it. Yeah, so that situation is completely different. Like I can imagine having to go through, so many steps to just do your job. That would kind of suck. All them hoops to jump through, but I imagine everyone's town will eventually be that way. So you must not watch I used to watch Trevor before he started doing so much crane work. Yeah, it's hard to really get into the crane work. It's those channels now become like a reference source, though. Um, when you need to see how crane work's done, because he is very, very, very. Holy smokes! Whoever, oh, like there's a bunch of thumbs up. Thanks, guys. Yeah, he's very good at crane work, and it's just definitely crane work. It is not as fun to watch, in my opinion. I'm not a fan. So I agree, BTS. I did. It's the same reason I used to watch him, you know, religiously almost. So he was one of the few, and but then he started doing the raw videos, and I still even watched like I used to love his edits. He was very good at editing like a Hollywood style video together and slamming some music to it. And he still does one every once in a while. Like I'll catch some stuff on Instagram that I like. But yeah, yeah, and I think he does so much crane work. Like he probably still rigs stuff out here and there, and I just miss it. It gets lost in the crane work. But he does a lot of live feeds and stuff, and tries to interact with you guys a lot too. So if the interacting part's something that you enjoy, should definitely check Trevor out. He does live feeds on Instagram a lot, and he's a pretty good guy. You know, I don't know him at all. I've never really talked to him. He seems like just a normal dude that is pretty like down to earth. He seems like, and like he's confident, but he's not cocky, and he's kind of grounded. Like his head's not in the clouds. Like because a little bit of like YouTube popularity can make your head swell for some guys, and just they walk around like there's something special. Like, come on now. People watch you on their telephone. You're not a movie star, so. I quit making appointments October 1st. Time to hunt. Trap and snowmobile. Oh, really? My experience is the bigger the limb, the worse the result. Yep, yep, you're right. And even making proper cuts on just a tree, making your collar cut correct as opposed to those guys that see a trunk and let's just say my thumb is the limb. Instead of cutting that off and leaving it about like that, where there's a little bit of a flare that comes out and you cut it off, they want to take it way in here, and they like make a dip in the tree so they can get it super super flat. So cosmetically, when you look at it, it looks it's straight. Now, that is the silliest thing. What you did was take a wound that would have been this big and now made it this big. And the tree now has to heal a wound this big and has an open wound for infection and all that, like 5 times the size. So there's very silly things that can be done that I've seen done, and like so a lot of it doesn't surprise me when I see it anymore because I live in Hillbillyville, man. I've seen it. I've seen it all. I can't say that. I see something stupid all the time. It blows my mind. But that sounds like the plan, Ground Pounder. You get it pretty figured out, man. Dude, that's awesome. That would be nice to have it so, like, set. Because so much of this is gambling, and like you don't know if you're gonna work at all. You don't know if you're gonna work 20 days in a row. You know, I've had times where I haven't worked for 3 and 4 months. Crazy shit happens. Like, I don't know, like COVID and shit. I don't even want to talk about that stuff. That stuff's stupid. You should, yeah, the ground pounder, you should check him out. He's a pretty good dude. How's that? So, Climber Clint, are you and Ground Pounder, are you guys like, do you guys work together? I hope you couldn't see what that message just said. I don't know like how this works, but it came across my screen, so I hope it really didn't come across yours. Ah. Deer season starts. I haven't went deer hunting in a long time. Used to be something I did every year. So there was like, here's my first. Actually, today I had to fix the thing with my first. This was my first deer. Oops. I don't know how long ago this was. This was a long time ago. But here was my first one. I got myself a 3-pointer. It's kind of like a basketball shot, eh? Mike with a 3-pointer. I have to tighten that back up. But I made this whole thing myself. Like, I was pretty young. But it's got a screw into the back of it to hold it in place. I need to tighten that up. Should be much tighter than that. Oh, there we go. Okay, now we're good. Yeah, this is what's crazy. I took this and took it off, and then I stuck this in a baggie, Ziploc baggie, for I don't know. It was a long time. It was months. It was probably like 6 months maybe in salt. And I was told that you can't use the fur and stuff, but I know I had seen before where somebody had used the actual scalp and everything, and like, when you see a deer in someone's place or, a business, it's always the full fur and the head and everything. I wanted the horns, but like, I didn't just, like, I don't know. I wanted to do something different, and I'm like, I want to see if I could save the actual hide with it and everything, and not have to like take the horns out and this and that and cut them off. And so yeah, and it worked. That thing's over a decade or more. Yeah, it's way older than that. I'd say 15 years ago, maybe more than that. I forget how old I am. Yeah, Christopher, you're right. With the flat cut starts to rot. I mean, you just think about common sense tells you um, precipitation, rain, everything, moisture can run off if the cut is made at an angle to allow it to not sit there and build up and start to rot and stuff. So yeah, it's just something. No one's thinking. Them guys that are cutting that and doing that are thinking about the money that they're getting paid right after they're done. They're not thinking about what is going to happen to this tree, because they're definitely, that if they were doing that, they would have never suggested that in the first place. They were looking for the money. They're not cared about your, It's like having an electric trimmer, like guys who trim the electric lines and stuff, as your tree guy. You say, well, he works for whatever, and they trim all the lines, so he's got to be a good tree guy. That does not mean they do not treat, they don't teach them guys how to properly trim a tree or take care of a tree. I got a pamphlet, and I need to find that damn thing in my mailbox one time, and it showed the most god awful things that the electric company does. They call it the V cut, where they take the whole center of your tree out, cut the whole thing out, and it's like got some limbs shooting out like this. They had another one that was like, I don't know, there's still like the L cut or the, and it was the most god awful stuff I'd ever seen. So you hire that kind of guy. He's only thinking about, what are you wanting done? Well, I would like to have a smaller tree. I can do that. I have a chainsaw. It cuts through wood, and I can hack this thing off. That's as far as the thinking goes, I think. I should want far enough so I can get a few weeks off so I can take a vacation and do some work around the house. It's been so busy. Dude, that is awesome, BTS. That's ain't nothing wrong with that, because maybe you have that time that comes up, and when it's great to be able to choose and schedule that time in, because you aren't forced to have it. That is awesome. Like, good on you. I wish I had it like that. That would be sweet. I'm not running my reputation because yeah, it's silly. I'm bad at timing. Right on. Actually, it's still too. We got CWD again. What's CWD? I don't even know. I'm New England area. Not the same here. Yeah. Yeah, but you guys pollard trees, which is like exactly what they're doing is, by pollarding they're causing a an artificial burl at the end of limbs by repeatedly causing cuts, but they're making the cuts properly. They're making collar cuts properly, so things are healing up, and it's just getting bigger and more of a knot out there. So it grows the growth off of that, and as long as the person, you know, gives enough points, the tree ends up being very full and nice. So yeah, um, definitely different terrain and areas though. So it's going to depend. Steel cutting. I tell homeowners, when you top a tree, you set a timer. If the tree's life just got shortened, in most cases, this is what I say. Okay, you have a beautiful tree, it's green. If you top a tree, you introduce rot. Bottom line, you can have the most perfect tree in the world. If someone tops that tree, you have now introduced rot, wound, all the bad stuff. You now introduced it to the tree, and it is a part. And it can be fixed over time, but that's where they if they're silly enough to think so short term that hacking this tree off is the answer to my problem, instead of doing crown reductions over shorter, over periods of time, to allow the tree to be small. You can do that, but they don't want to do that. They want that quick fix instantly. So that's kind of, you know, why things happen like that. You're introducing rot into the tree. You want the quick fix, so you're definitely not going to pay to have a guy out every year, because you want to pay to do something one time. That's like the person that goes out to buy a pair of shoes, and let's say your feet keep growing, your feet keep growing, so he goes and buys them 5 sizes too big because he wants to make sure he can grow into them. No, I'm not going to buy something like that. That's not, And then what happens when your foot does it? It only grows 2 more sizes. You're now walking around with a shoe that's 3 sizes too big for no reason. So I I it's such a that's just always been my thing. Like, what's bad for a tree? Well, rot is. That means it's dying. So when you top a tree, you introduce rot. Are you good with that? Are you good with your tree being rotten? Most people are like, ooh, I didn't. Well, how do you figure? That's usually where the conversation is started. It's really hard to say, oh no, you're wrong. You shouldn't top a tree. This is why. That's usually the. It's really easy to start and have that conversation after that right there. Will you top my tree? Well, did you know that topping trees actually introduces rot to the tree, and that the new growth will never be structurally sound? It'll always be a weak point. Then the conversation starts right there. I give a couple, topic things there, and then they're either gonna bite or they're not. Some people are like, "Yeah, I don't give a damn. I want a shorter tree." Hey, maybe I'm not your guy. Or you have another one that says, I don't, I don't really care. I want that tree to die, but I'll take the log over, hack it off. I mean, there's those times where you know if the health of the tree isn't a concern, topping isn't that bad. But if you care about the health of the tree, topping is just not the answer. It really isn't. Alder. Well, I gotta get we feel sorry. Oh, right on, John. Hey, thanks for hanging out, buddy. I appreciate you always kind of swinging in and always being here. So, tell the kids we said howdy, the wife, everybody, and have a good one. Thanks, man. I dig it how you guys all tell him bye too. That's awesome. I'm trying to get like that in Connecticut here. Yeah, it's a bummer, because it's not like it's technical work that like the guy's gonna be there rigging for hours and hours and hours. It takes like 2 minutes to go stand up in the fork and go wow and just butcher something, and it's already done, and they're out of there. So it's like ah, it sucks. Thomas, what's up? Yeah, hey, that's why I'm sitting here on my phone. So I'm probably really far behind on comments, so I need to catch it. Ah, thanks, Christopher. I appreciate it. The interaction part, like interacting with people, I'm not the best at, so I'm just trying to get better at it. And I feel like these weekly lives have actually helped me, kind of forced me to interact more than I normally would. Like, okay, hey Clint, hey, I appreciate you hanging out, buddy. Thank you. Kent is my groundie, but he's a client. Oh, cool. Okay, I was just about to ask that, but then I'm like, I'm probably so far behind on comments, I shouldn't ask that because by the time I read the answer, I won't even know what I'm reading. But okay, thank you, Ground Pounder. That's awesome. Right on. Rob Bob, what is up? It's been a few years since yeah. Dang it, I hope nobody took off without me saying bye, like, just because I'm so damn slow at reading their comments. John, it was probably the best deer I've ever ate. I'm very selective, nothing smaller than an eight trap. Yeah, we at when I actually got that one, we had it was actually a pretty decent sized deer. It wasn't like he kind of looked silly with such small horns, but it was really hard to see that it was a buck at first. It took me a little bit to make sure because he was with two does, and it was crazy because we had a rock quarry had moved in. At my parents just lived way out in the country, and that's where I was like born and raised in a town called Knob Lick. So it's an old I think logging area at the time, but like it's an old mine area where they mine granite and stuff. And it's like there's nothing there. There's like a little store there where we actually used to call it the little store where you buy like penny gum and stuff like that. But and there's like a post office inside of it where you have your little post office box and stuff. So we were working or we were hunting out there when we first moved in. It was amazing. It was full of deer. Then that rock quarry moved back in, and they were supposed to be there for 6 months and move. Oh, they stayed. Oh, they're still there. They were there for like 8 years, and then they finally bought my parents out. But they ran all the game off, so it was very surprising I got anything because they were always using dynamite and stuff and blowing shit up. Costs too much to have one mounted. Yeah, it does. 2 years. I took a 131 8 point from behind my house. Dang, that's awesome. No, well, the vid. Okay, okay, right on. Steve, what's up? Oh, Bill too. Right on. You ain't messed up. Oh man, we got Schroeder here too. Shredder, what is up? Yeah, pretty much. This is where all the cool people are at, for the most part. I mean, a couple of them left, like John, Swirly John. So we're a little less cool, but we're still cool enough. You see all the thumbs up? You know, he's all kind of just talking about deer hunting and stuff, but I'm gonna try to catch up on comments. I just saw I'm gonna skip over a few of them if it doesn't seem like something like asking a question or something. So I apologize. So I can kind of get caught up with you guys. I think it works good, but how much of a back cleaner? Okay, Bill. There's no way I can like tell you for sure, but with the proper notch and a proper back cut and leaving the right amount of hinge and running that thing at the right angle. That's the biggest thing about it is running it. I've taken trees, I'm not kidding you one bit. I've taken trees that are lean like this. You know, as long as it's above a 40, I can bring it all the way back with the maze stem. Done it, seen it done. It is very, very, very good. And the best part about it is it creates a constant, very consistent and constant pull that doesn't change in pulling power. Where a vehicle or manpower, you're going to get changes in strength where it's going to pull harder or weaker at some points. And that's where you get breaks or a slip or things like that. The maze dam, the only trouble is that you can get some slippage with it, but if you run a brake, I use a hand ascender, or you can run a knot or something. Or just make sure you use the right kind of rope. I've never used 3-strand rope in a maze dam, but that's what it calls for, so I imagine it probably works pretty good. I've always been silly and used 12-strand, or, actually 12-strand is usually what I use. And you do get a bit of slipping sometimes if you apply a good amount of pressure and the pressure is relieved a little bit. There's a weak point in there where it'll slip out. But usually, if you get a good bite down on it, I mean, I don't know. It's just hard to say, man. Just use it and and try it out. Like when you get a tree that's in a wide open area and it's leaning in a certain direction, be like, you know what? It would make it quicker if we pulled it. Even though I could just cut this and just send it where it wants to go, pull the maze dam out right now, and we're going to pull it back against its lean and go see how much of a leaner we can do. Because you may be better than me eventually, you know? and maybe get some practice with it. You may be better than me, and maybe you can take one from past 45 and bring it back. So just like anything else, man, just put some practice to it, and I promise, as long as you know, don't leave too much, like, too much of a backstrap is not a good thing. I am going to focus some videos on showing a little more of widening the backstrap and a notch to get flex a little more, and I'll start focusing on that a little more because I use that a lot now, and I see how easy it is making things work, and how you don't have to be so ignorant precise on your, like, you could be off a tad and not be perfectly level on your cut, and it comes out, it's a little safer. But that's a different story. um Took down a monster hagbark hickory today, the biggest tree. That's awesome. Get it, Rob Bob. I'm still here, Dan. Steve, we got us another Steve. What's up, man? Steve? Bopple. Okay. I got 1st of December for deer. Not sure about moose yet. Dang, you hunt moose? That's pretty sweet. That's why I'm here. Remember your friends, Steve. It's still nice and calm. Awesome, I caught up. Wedges are good for backleanings. Also, a very good point. A backleaning tree, the worst. Okay, you know how when you got a straight tree and you start to cut and you get a little setback? It's not that big of a deal. When you got a pretty straight tree and you get setback, it's scary, but you cannot have setback with a backleaning tree. That's where something bad happens. So you want to prevent setback before it ever gets its chance to happen. So you start to make your back cut. You put a wedge in. You start to be. You'll see. I will show on this tree because this tree actually arced backwards. It had a huge limb that went out the backside, and it actually went over the house in the opposite direction that we were going to take it. And I have to fit that tree in this little narrow alleyway down through there. And if I can put it in that little alleyway that I made, it should it should manage to not break anything, because the homeowner actually wanted, okay, let's say we got the house here, and then the like porch comes off right here, and we got the tree, and we was taking it down. No, they wanted me to go this way, and right next to that there's like some bricks and a flat area, and that's the septic. And I got to like looking stuff up, and I started seeing some horror stories where guys had fell trees, not over a septic, but close, somewhere by a septic, and the shock into the ground, a concussion on the ground, cracked the septic. It's a very big log that is very tall, pretty fat, and I was gonna have to like catch the edge of this little hill, and it was gonna shoot the log out. It was gonna have to go perfect. I was gonna have to climb that thing, get it way down before it would actually fit under those other oaks. There was a ton of stuff that had to happen. So when we switched our mind and we said, well, let's go this other way, we'll go along the fish pond where the waterfall's at with these other two out, doing more work for free, made everything faster. That sounds stupid, but it did. Um, Also, they were like elderly women, retired. They wanted me to drop and leave everything right where it's at, just cut it up. I couldn't do that either. My conscience wouldn't let me do that. I tried to roll some of these logs. I had trouble rolling the chunks of wood, and I was like, there's no way. I can't leave this stuff for a bunch of women. Not a bunch, but two older women to have to come out here, and then they hurt themselves, and I definitely wouldn't call me back if you. So I just, yeah, that took a while, some extra, a lot of extra work for nothing. But it me, made made it safer for me, it made it faster for me, and it made everything more efficient, but it was a little more physical. Being physical I don't mind. So there's like a little bit of the insight to it. But yeah, wedges on a leaner, very, very important. You can't allow the setback to ever start, because then you have lost momentum. And like, that's your best friend. You got to create it and get it moving. That tree also, uh, what happened, I'll let you guys know. The tree actually 2/3 of the way up, right before it had its first big union up there, it was like a 4 headed monster up there. Like, it didn't have much left except for that. Well, it was completely hollow, about 65 foot up. Huge section, completely hollow. Rest of it completely solid. That's where all that sucker growth you seen growing down the log was hurting right there for some reason. Um, and that's where it threw a bunch. You noticed a bunch of leaves and a bunch of suckers growing up that log that were dead. Um, those shouldn't. Those were very, very recent. Those are very recent limbs. Those the leaves wouldn't still be attached, um, and they should be green right now, which tells you that there's a major issue because they're already brown, crinkled up. They must have shot out at the beginning of spring, covered itself up, and it just realized we're done. We can't. What happened was it takes nutrients and everything from the root system, takes them up to the top, all the sugars, everything. It got to the hollow area, it's hollow. It can't go anymore. Like it's like it was so messed up. I feel like it was like if you put a stinking rubber band around your finger for too long, your finger's gonna rot off. Kind of that. It just so long of being deprived of stuff because of the hollow area that it killed the rest of the tree off. Have you ever tried the triple hinge? Um, like I get why that kind of stuff would work. But I what I do is doing things in steps like that. A lot of times, a notch isn't gonna just go close up and just stay there for you. That rarely ever happens. The only time I've ever really had that happen mainly is when I do like shagbark hickories, a pig nut hickory. Hickories are very, very like tensile strength strong and are very stringy. So they'll close up a lot of times to stay attached. But yeah, I don't really run into that issue. I want constant and steady movement and progression from one point. So if I'm taking a tree like here, then I'm bringing it all the way back over, where I would normally have a notch like this, that's not going to cut it. So if I have that notch there, like this, and the tree starts to move, it's already closed, and the tree isn't over center. Now what do? We'll pop another notch in there. That's where you get in that triple notch thing. I feel like that was only a technique ever really probably brought up or designed because of an obstacle that like it laid against another tree or something, or they messed up. They didn't judge the actual notch itself properly. So when you're taking out a back leaner, where normally a 45, something like that would be good enough, you want a very open, you almost want like this, to where both are just wide open. And I will, a lot of times, my notches will be very open because I want the log to travel off. A lot of times I'll high stump because it's better on the back and for aiming and making the cuts and stuff. So high stump, and I want the log to come off when the tree comes off. So where you would leave your notch like this, taking off the bottom part, making the humboldt, that's where you would, with this being off, the tree now when it comes off, it slides off of it and the log comes off. A lot of times with a traditional one, the tree will close. It'll stay up here on the stump and the tree will fall, but it'll stay up here and it'll still be sitting on the stump. That's a good thing sometimes. That works, I've used that in my advantage where you have like a little obstacle underneath it or something. But yeah, it just depends on the situation. Like, how I was talking about lengthening the back strap to get more flex and make things easier. So you make your notch like this. Now, how would I, how would you, lengthen that back strap when you have like a notch like this? So your tree's like this. You took a notch out, cut. Now, how would I widen that? So the way I would do it would be come down, and I would go right underneath, and I would make another cut. Straight, the exact same as your bottom cut here. Right underneath. About that much. Not very much, maybe even less. And you cut in all the way back to where you think about right where it was at. Then you wiggle your saw, hit it with the axe, and now you've taken where you used to be very, you know, pointy right here, and you've angled that, and now you got this like back strap back here that now has room to flex and like move a little easier. So you can use that to your benefit. Lengthening that back strap can really help, and it makes things a bit easier for it to pull fiber and stuff. Probably not a technique that you want to mess with a lot with dead trees. That's probably not going to give you. I don't know. It could be an advantage with dead trees, but mainly with green stuff. So living trees. That seems geometrically gimmicky. Maybe, but yeah, I'm not the expert. What's that? Have you ever tried the triple hinge? Yeah, see, I don't. That it could be a good technique. Here's where triple hinge, where I think would work. Say you have a tree here, you have a tree here, you have a tree here, and you want to fall this tree. Um, let's say you go to fall and you get it stuck. So now you can put another hinge in an opposite direction, and actually, if you took it this way, now you can take it back this way. So I don't know, like I don't know about that triple hinge thing, like, but yeah, thinking about that mouth closing, like you don't ever want that to close until the tree is so committed that closing can't can't cause anything bad to happen. Because a lot of times closing is going to cause the fiber to pull. Then that's where it's going to rip fiber. It's going to come off, and it separates. So if you was to allow a tree to start to come over, and right here it separates and it closes completely, well, it's a long ways for it still to fall with just gravity. And let's say it had twisted or something. Sometimes a tree will start to go over and it'll close, and when it closes, this side for some reason decides to hold better than this side because maybe you left a little bit, or this side's got a bad spot, and it goes closes and it jumps to the right a little bit because it held. You want a tree so completely committed that when it pulls and it comes apart and separates, it's not changing any of its direction. It's just right where you want it. I know that a lot of guys think like they're very, very skilled, they're good at falling trees. I'm gonna tell you right now, I am not a logger. I am not a feller. I don't know my skill level when it comes to being absolutely insanely precise with falling trees. And I don't think most guys will ever know that until you've decided to fall them where the repercussions are insane. Like even best case scenario, something bad happens. I find myself having to be so insanely precise when falling such a big tree. That really never happens. Usually there's little room for a little bit of a hiccup or to, be off a tad. Usually this isn't sharpshooting, it's not so absolutely precise. Guys will say, well, I need to make it through here and it's threading the needle. No, I mean, if you got a bunch of limbs that kind of grow down, you got trees that are like this and the limbs just grow down like this. If you put it in between them trees and it plays off the limbs and slides down the limbs, that's not threading the needle. I mean, you're just putting it in between a gap. So you consider the gap to be from log to log. Don't count all the branches. You can break some branches, and that's, that's okay, unless, like, you're not allowed to do this or that. But I got to find out how, like, am I good enough? Like, this, I got to the point where I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. This could go very wrong. That tree, as I started to cut, it actually drifted to the house. I had a long ways to go before it ever got past the house. After we got movement and the back lean started to come out, it drifted for some reason. I don't know why or what really. Maybe maybe I wasn't exactly lined up perfect with my back cut, and I had a little too much on that side, and I weakened it. But I was trying to get movement, and for the movement not to be too harsh, because insane movement causes that to break, and I want it to pull fiber. I want it to hinge. So I want, gradual movement without it having to be an insane amount of pressure to get it to move. So I got it to move, and then I think I may have cut a little too much on the one, and I felt it. I looked up, I watched the whole time. But you can't just watch it the whole time when you're trying to hit an exact line. You can spot up, look back down, spot up, look back down, watch, 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 and when you know you have movement, now you're watching the log and watching where it's going, because that's what you're aiming for. I don't really care where the tip goes. Like, that's not, my concern is this log, and I need to put it on these few blocks of wood. I need to bridge it over this walkway. I need to bridge it down this other walkway. I need to miss these dogwood trees. I need to miss this fish pond, this porch, these flowers. The list went on. And if you notice, down at the bottom of the hill, the stump that I had down there, I had a tall stump up here at the top of the hill, because I'm falling this way. There was a tall stump here as you start to go down, and then down over to the left a little more, there was another stump, and it looked like it had like a chair back on it. So, like, I had this stump that was there, I cut it off, and then I left a little corner. This was a green tree. I left a good chunk here that was like a catcher. So with these two things, they were at different points. Like, this one's way up the hill, and this one's down here to the left. But it left an alleyway where if I could get it into that alleyway, things were going to work for me. Like, it was going to hold. It was going to stay in there. It would stop it from bouncing or going crazy one way or the other. But the scary part is, with that high stump, if I was coming over and I didn't get it exact perfect, and it catches the top of that high stump, it's going to cause this thing to turn into a seesaw. And it would have flipped up and grabbed the porch. Um, Actually, at the time, it wasn't really something I was thinking of. Usually, I feel like I play every bad case scenario out in my head. That wasn't one that I thought of until after watching it and everything. And I'm like, wow, that was scary when that thing drifted towards the porch. And then I noticed when it fell, I looked at the distance between, it was like right in the middle where it would have, if it would have hit right on that high stump, it would have caused a teeter-totter, because this still would have had a long ways to go. And then the fish pond was like a three-tiered fish pond. They told me I could fall it right through it. It was full of goldfish and koi, and I just couldn't do that. So I'll definitely work on it and get it out really quick for you guys, because I want you guys to, see how it went, and especially since we spent the time talking about it and stuff. Never did. Oh, big wood, those trees and these. Yeah, heavy, big timber is hard to deal with. It's something you definitely got to get used to. I couldn't, it'd be a total game changer moving on the coast and dealing with some of them monsters. So, yeah, it was a nasty tree. Yeah, I I had come to terms with it, and she was totally like, whatever bricks get broke, who cares? My walkway, like the rock walkway that went down, who cares? Other trees get broke, who cares? Anything that log smashes, she okay. She was okay with me taking it next to the septic. I said I couldn't do that. Like I don't want, I really don't want to take that risk because now I'm on a hillside and I'm trying to lay a log sideways on a hillside where it's going to want to hit. It's going to want to go down the hill. It's going to want to just run, shoot. We were going to run, a tag line with the porter wrap to anchor it. It would have been a whole nother thing, but yeah. What causes wedges to spit out at times? Well, your saw a lot of times. If you're cutting, it is very hard to judge how far that wedge is in compared to the saw. Um, a lot of times your chainsaw will accidentally hit it, or when you're making your cut, you're building sawdust back behind the saw, and it's pushing sometimes. So that could be the case. I've seen that. Sometimes the tree setting back spits it out. So you definitely want to get that wedge in there and set beforehand. Like a lot of times, what I'll try to do when I'm trying to set a wedge, I'll start to make my back cut even with where the notch is at, but I will swoop in a little more on one side or the other. Mainly, I'll swoop in a little more on the side that I want to put the wedge, so that I already kind of made some of that cut, and I can kind of bore in with the tip after I put that wedge in there to keep from cutting my wedges. But I'm not very good at it. I cut wedges. It seems like every damn time I use them. So, oh, right on, ground pounder. Yeah, it's definitely was one to remember. Like I, I physically, I looked at it so many times. I thought about it for weeks. I'll remember this forever. It just played in my head for so long. I just didn't see it there being any. Well, you've seen when he put the chunk of wood down. He set the chunk of wood down. He set it down. It broke cracked the walkway right there. And I'm like, this one chunk of wood from like a little or like this is not gonna go good. You can hear it in my voice after he sets that chunk of wood down, and I notice that it cracks the walkway, which the walkway had a bunch of cracks in it. It was just rocks with mortar put in the middle to hold them into place. But when he said that, you can hear it in my voice, like I'm pissed. Like I just right then realized I can't even touch this. It can't touch it. If it touches it, it's breaking. And so like you could definitely hear it in my tone and like the way I was acting. I was I was like stressing. Like I was like bumming. I'm like, damn, there's no way to do this without something getting broke. And I don't like doing that. There has to be. And so we focused a little more on the bridging aspect of it because if the cribbing and bridging that we were doing worked and did its job, there was a way to keep from destroying something. So all my focus shifted from stop thinking about the cut, stop thinking about, if can you follow this tree, you can do it. Your focus is now this log as it goes down. So then I start looking at the log. What kind of bends does the log have in it? What's the shape? Because and where are them bends or knobs going to hit at? And I got that precise. So I hope you guys enjoy it when I finish it. I don't want to say too much about it because I don't want to take and give everything away before you watch it. But it was definitely one to remember. Yeah, those wedges with them little teeth on the back of them, those are pretty cool. They'll work pretty good. They're a little harder to get started though. So other wedges, not so hard to start. And if you're really beating the piss out of a wedge to put it in there, the hard tipped wedges are the best in my opinion. I never owned one. I finally bought one. Totally get why. Because you can beat the piss out of the back of it with your hammer and it doesn't bust. I've broken and busted apart every wedge I've ever owned, ever bought, and I've owned a lot of them that have little teeth on the back of them, like every little size and shape, and Like I have one that's attached to a little keychain ring thing that clips onto my saddle so that when I'm up in a tree I can, use it to fall chunks. And when the chunk goes over, it doesn't fall down, it just zips and comes back and hangs off my side. So I have all kinds of little toys and stuff that I've made and put together. It was probably just so long ago, some of you may have maybe never seen them. So that's why I guess I should go over stuff up sometimes. I don't repeat stuff and like bore the few people that I get that actually enjoy the content. That's the other thing. Yeah, I've never had the hardship one back out, but usually if I'm using a wedge, it's a pretty gnarly piece of wood, log that I'm using it on, and usually if you're in a good sized chunk of wood, you have your face cut, and you have plenty of backwood to make your cut, and then put the notch in, and your saw isn't so close to it. When you start getting the smaller diameter trees and using wedges, um, that's where you end up with having trouble getting your saw pinched. The other day, like I think there was a video of mine. I don't even know which one it could have been, but I got oh yeah, the fallen one. Where the thumbnail was like "Defy Gravity." That was the name of the video. But August put out a video. Like it was done for 2 days before I uploaded it. Like there was like some finishing touches, and then the day I was gonna put it out, he put out a video like gravity has good reflexes or something, and I was like, damn it! Like I feel like somebody would think that like I stole his idea. So like that's why that's it. It had a title at the beginning of the video that wasn't the title technically, but it was the title until I found out my title was too close to his title, and I don't want people to think that I stole my title from his title. And I don't know if that makes any sense at all, but yeah. I like to use wedges as a gauge to see what the tree is doing. If I keep cutting while the tree is getting pulled and I continue to palm the wedge in, I know I'm in control and we're moving. Yeah, yeah, you can definitely, that, I definitely understand where you're coming from there. Um, the only issue with that, like, I'm, I'm usually watching the top so much for movement because when I did this, like, okay, when you guys watch that tree, you're gonna see the tree's gonna go. It's gonna, as we finally start to get pulled, it says towards the house, and I'm like, oh shit! I, I, I swoop over here and I start to shrink down this side over here, and it says, and it's going at the fish pond now, and I'm like, oh shit! So the tree actually started to come over. It says, boom. So you can make it swing, and you can get some swing out of them if the cut's made at the right time. But that changes from every tree's gonna pull a little different. So very hard thing to ever like teach or like. And that's not what I'm doing when I say this stuff. Like I'm just sharing. Like I don't want anybody to take what I say and go try to do it. Like I don't want that on my conscience. So like if you do, that's on you. Like I'm definitely not ever telling anybody to do the like go do this. I'm just sharing what I do. So please don't put that on me. My dad gave me a 3-strand stable braid half-inch rope. I hate it for tying knots, but man, it's Bob. That's the line that it calls for to be used in maze dams. And I understand why. If you look at the teeth in the geared system that's on a maze dam, after I looked at how a 3-strand rope works and how them teeth in that are designed, I'm like, I see. Okay, I get it. I get why a 3-strand would work really good. So Only reason I don't like the 3-strand is all the ridiculous amount of friction that it causes when it's moving. It like almost works like a dull saw would. But even a dull saw, if it rubs long enough, it's going to take the bark off. And, like, kind of rough on the hands and stuff. But yeah, I see a lot of guys that swear by them for rigging, but not not my favorite. Definitely a good rope though. I if I could find one for a reasonable price, I wasn't having to pay too much. I would definitely buy one and get like a 300 foot or maybe 400 foot for just a maze dam to be able to put it somewhere crazy, run redirects off things to your maze. So it's a good rope to have. I like the wedges that are red and white. Can't remember the brand name, but they seem to be harder and last longer. Yeah, it's the same kind like Bucking uses. Yeah, those. Probably just a much better plastic. They seem they haven't too much. Like I have some wedges that have a strange design. Like most wedges, like run at an angle. They're like skinny, and their profile is they get a little fatter. I have some that get fat real quick. I have other ones that like the bottom is flat and it has two different angles. It's from steel. It gets about there, and then all of a sudden it kicks to a high version. So there's so many different kinds of wedges out there. It's insane. Side face cut and make plenty of hinge. Sometimes it comes through the front and plunge cut the heart out to help prevent a barb. Yeah, I've never had. I kind of I worry about the plunge cut on taking that structure wood out because that's basically what hardwood your hardwood to it is like the strength. You're gonna get better hinge and you're gonna pull better fiber on your cambium layers on the outer rings, but your interior wood a lot of times is like where your strength is at. But you're definitely gonna get quicker movement. Try lengthening your back strap and see if you like that, ground pounder. That's something that I just started messing with, and I could see where, like, the effect that I'm getting from that may be like what you're getting with the plunge cut. It's just quicker, more action out of your hinge work. Like it's just more active. It's more snappy. You get the movement quicker and with less effort. So I just always worry so much about it busting out backwards on me. A typical vertical is designed for wood that is brittle so it can flex more before the hinge breaks. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, logging is a very different game. You guys are mainly mechanized, aren't you? Can't afford all that crap. But we still cut with chainsaws. Have you ever tried a bottle jack? Yeah, I have. It's a bottle jack is not that's not designed for tree work though. A proper like bottle jack for a tree has like this flex into it, and a normal bottle jack. I I think Guilty of Treason just did a thing on it, and he talked about it. But there is a difference between an actual tree jack that is a bottle jack that goes in a tree and a bottle jack itself. Um, my only issue with it is like I don't I want top control and I want to pull the tip the direction I want. Sometimes you're just getting lift and it can lift the whole tree and like cause some funkiness. But I've used the bottle jack before because I had seen it done and I just had to do it. So, but it really didn't give me an advantage. It was so small where it was pushing up. It needed to have a plate designed for the top of it, but I didn't use a plate. I like made this little metal thing to go on there. It wasn't really enough. There was a huge setup that had to go in. Like I had to cut this triangle in, and like it was so much stuff. Then I got a maze dam that costs less than $100, and it does it 20 times faster and can be hooked to anything with enough weight to work as an anchor. So I just never find myself ever using anything else. It's just a maze dam's just too easy, too efficient, and just works too good to use anything else. We have a friend who walkers here. They travel all over Michigan because the nearby mills only have 3 bands. I'd love to see some content there. Yeah, Billy. I finally made some. Right on. Like a small gust of wind can really make it. Exactly, Billy. Um, I don't know if anybody reads my descriptions that I put on these videos, but like I remember that day enough. Like I remember what like my reference was for this. Like when I was explaining it to people, it's like, and I'm not a big football fan, but I know enough about it and keep up with it. I don't keep up with it at all, but I used to. I know enough about it. Like I know all the rules. I could play a game of football, watch football, play it as a video game, whatever. Um, it's equivalent to a kicker kicking a uh, kicking a 70-yard field goal, like or 75. It can be done. There are guys out there that can do it, but it's going to be insanely difficult. The odds are very low, and everything can just go to hell with the slightest gust of wind. So my reference to that, or like my comparison for that tree was, it's my 75-yard field goal. I can be a hero or a zero, and that was the fun part of it. So I feel like maybe you read the description, Billy. You're one of the few, maybe. Nope, no. Raspy Panda. Well, it's the first time I ever seen you, Raspy Panda. 74. How we doing? It used to be a pretty regular thing, but no. Kind of, it's been years. Like social media kind of stops that. I mean, sometimes you're working somewhere and you may take a card over or something, like, or you're doing something, you see somebody that would need a card or something. But like, I remember, back in the day, like, there were days that like that's what was done. We would like have a crew, and they would like take us into a subdivision, like you get out with fistfuls of cards, you go knock on doors, and you have people look at you like you're a scumbag, and like you're wasting their fucking time at all times, and the rejection just demoralized me. Like I was so grateful that we were doing this on days that we weren't working because I couldn't go to work after that. Like people would treat me like such trash for knocking on their door trying to make an honest living, that like, and look at me like I was so gross that like it just demoralized me. I had no confidence by the time I walked back to the truck. And after a few houses, I was beat up enough, like I wasn't worth a damn after that. So door to doors, I'm not a fan, man. At times on the big pine, I take a compass reading. Right on. Gotta watch the wind. 100%. Wind is tricky. Oh, 100%. I bet it's way worse. Francisco, there's my guy. What is up? What's up, buddy? Okay, let's see you. Okay. Yeah, I mean, if you guys decide to bet on it or something, just because I like you guys, definitely bet on the side of somehow, miraculously, it worked perfect. So. We'll just leave it at that, Turbo. Right on. Well, I have to show some of the silly ass wedges I got. Like, I got a bag of them that sits underneath my seat, and it's pretty silly. Like, I have one of the smaller steel wedges, and what I did is I took the wedge. Here's the pointy end. It goes to the flat end right here, and I took a little eyelet bolt and I screwed it into the back, a little bitty one. Or no, actually I screwed it on the top right here by the back, because I was going to screw it in the back, but then I needed to hammer it, and I wouldn't have been able to hammer it with an eyelet back here. So, like, it only goes in so far. You can't bottom. I can't even remember. No, maybe I put it on the side. I'm going to have to get it now. Now I'm embarrassed. I'm sitting there telling all kinds of lies. Ground Pounder, thank you, buddy. I appreciate all the support. How you're always here watching the videos. I really do appreciate you guys are awesome. I saw the video by August. Yeah, he stole my damn title 2 days before I made it. No, actually, I made my video 2 days before I found out that we had made similar titles. So, yeah. But I'm trying to blame it on him because he totally destroyed my idea, I feel like, and I had to come up with something else. I'm like, oh my god. So I watched the video like 5 more times before I came up with a title that would work, and I'm like, oh my god. I swear I made a video before where it was like tree work versus free work, and it did no views. I'm like, what the hell? So I'm like, don't use that. But I'm like, it's what the video's about. So I try to make the title relate to the video and what it's all about. So holy smokes, guys! I've been here for an hour and a half. We got 12 thumbs, 9 people. We got more thumbs than we got people. So taking the bikes to work tomorrow. What? Oh, that's awesome. BTS. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. Guys, I am going to try to cut this off. I'm going to try to catch up real quick. A bit scary, John. So, yeah, I am, I'm going to hop off here. You guys, thanks, as always. I always, like, don't want to do these right before it starts. Like, cause I feel like, even though you guys aren't physically here, I feel like I'm like walking out on a stage with everybody staring at me. But I end up enjoying it, and then like I have trouble getting off here before it's all said and done. I want to stay longer. So thank you guys. I appreciate all the support. And I don't even know how to pay it back, but I really appreciate it. And I'll keep the content coming. So stay safe. Um, Let me know if I can help you with anything. There's always a comment section. Even if it's an old video, if you comment on it today, I will know. It jumps to the very top at my studio. So don't think because it's an old video I won't see your. I see every single comment. All my comments are given to me by the time that you leave them. So leave me a comment. Let me know if I can help you with something. I apologize if for some reason you get lost in the shuffle. Ask me again. I'll get to it eventually. So thank you guys, and I'll see you soon. Stay safe.